What's going on, people? Welcome to another Toronto Hoop Talk live stream. My name is Alam, and today we're previewing the 2025-26 season. Uh, this is the last stream I'm going to do before the preseason watch-alongs. So we're going to run through all the topics that I'll be keeping an eye on over the course of the year. Every year when you go into the season, there's usually some topics and some issues on your mind that stick out more than others. So that's what we're going to make the focus of today's stream. We're going to talk about things like the defensive approach this year and how it's changing, talking about expectations, the coaching staff, everything. But before we get into that, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, Toronto Hoop Talk. Occasionally I do live streams like this where we talk about topics, but usually I'm doing watch alongs. So all throughout the year, when you're watching the Raptors game, I will be online on YouTube live streaming while it's happening. So feel free to come hang out with the community. We do a lot of fun stuff during the games, but without further ado, we'll jump right into it. So the first thing that I will be thinking about over the course of the year, as I see General is in here. Good to see you, bro. Do the Raptors adapt to Brandon Ingram, or does Brandon Ingram adapt to the Raptors? I say this because fundamentally, if you just look at both these entities and factor in no adjustments, one is clearly different than the other. Brandon Ingram, isolation heavy play style, somebody who likes to have the ball in his hands for extended periods of time, likes his mid-range jumpers. I even talked about it during media day. He likes getting the ball at the elbow. Not a lot of stuff that you typically see the Raptors do as of late, especially in the Darko era. You see a lot of movement, a lot of quick passing, quick decisions. And I just think that there's a gap there. Now, a part of what happens when you have such a distinct playing style is that you obviously have a weakness. So the interesting thing here is that Ingram kind of contrasts the way we like to play basketball. And because he contrasts the way we like to play basketball, he actually kind of addresses some of the weaknesses on our team. But again, what I will be paying attention to really is, does that mean that is the result of that contrast we're going to make him adjust to us, or are we going to actually help him incorporate into our playing style without making him change too much? Like I said, I think Brandon Ingram could be helpful to us if we don't make him play like all of our other players, if we kind of let him stand out a little bit. But if we try to turn Brandon Ingram into everybody else that we have, quick passing, quick decisions, then we might not get the best Brandon Ingram. So this is something I'm going to be closely monitoring. Do we let him be himself, or do we push him to be like us? As I think that's going to be a very important part of how this next year goes. And I think we'll only really get the best Brandon Ingram if we let him be himself. The next thing I'm going to be looking at, does a more aggressive approach, a more aggressive defensive approach suit the Raptors? So this is something that has been alluded to a couple times. This is, defense as a whole is a popular topic for Raptors fans because there was a point last year where the defensive production skyrocketed kind of because it was pretty bad up until I believe it was like a time period in January where we started to hold teams to not scoring that many points and whatnot, getting a lot of steals, turnovers. So there was a turning point, and I guess a lot of people are curious about whether that's sustainable and if that'll continue into this year. If you pay attention to media day, there's a couple interesting points that came up. There's obviously an emphasis on defense, but specifically there was an emphasis on playing a more aggressive style of defense, picking up people higher up the court, being more aggressive to get steals. And Darko, I think it was Darko that even mentioned that players have to be in better shape to play defense. So, the first thing I think of when I hear that is, yeah, we're going to be flying all over the court. And this isn't really new to this organization because that is how we played defense with Nick Nurse for the most part. What the hell? Okay. Did this pop up for a second? No, I might be tripping. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we swing the pendulum all the other way back to the way where things were with Nick Nurse, or whether we find a middle ground. Because I grew a bit tired of the way we played defense under Nick Nurse. I thought that we would do a good job cutting off number one options, but it would happen at the expense of our team as a whole. I felt like you'd see role players I'm tripping. You're tripping. You're hungry, bro. Maybe. I'm gonna go eat after this. Um, but yeah, I grew a little bit tired of it. I thought role players would produce too easily. I think if you aggressively try to double team the other team's best player, uh, and kind of leave 3 defenders off the ball to deal with 4 offensive players off the ball, it's a pretty difficult spot to be in if you want to consistently win games against good teams. So um, I kind of welcomed the more traditional, more reserved style of defense that we initially saw under Darko, but it looks like the approach to getting better, because the defense for a good little bit was pretty bad under Darko, and just generally the personnel and the team wasn't that good. I kind of welcomed the approach because I wanted to see what things would be like if we just didn't, like, if not a complete swing to being completely traditional, but if you just kind of try to see if some of these number one options can score on OG Anunoby or a Scotty Barnes. Like, I felt like we had good defenders, so why not see what our defenders can do in one-on-one situations? It does look like we plan to swing back to the other side of the pendulum in terms of being very aggressive, going for steals, having to run around. Because that's happening, I'm kind of weary of whether we have the personnel to execute it. Because one, do you want Jakob Pertl off the ball scrambling around because people have to make rotations and you have to just like scramble and run to the first man you can? Do we want that from him? But also, when we played basketball like this before, we had a roster full of defensive players, specifically athletic defensive players. We don't necessarily have that anymore, right? We have Emmanuel Quickley, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett. We have pieces that I don't necessarily think would thrive in this kind of a defensive role. Just generally, they might not thrive in defensive roles, period. But one that requires so much activity, energy, focus, all these things. I'm just interested in seeing how it works. I'm a little bit skeptical. I understand him trying to switch things up, specifically to something that some of these players have done before in Toronto. But yeah, we're definitely gonna have to keep an eye on this. I want to throw jabs at Darko before the season. What if the Raps had another year play before they picked Darko? I would have loved Jordy, man. I would have loved having Jordy Fernandez on the coaching staff, man. Jordy coached the hell out of the Canadian team in FIBA. I would have been a big fan of Jordy. Athletic, shut out Precious. Facts, man. Shut out Precious. Athletic and nothing else. Nah, you know what? No, I'll respect Precious. He doesn't deserve that. Next thing I'll be thinking about is, does a 10 to 11 man rotation give young players enough minutes? This is something that came up. Darko mentioned wanting to have 10 to 11 players in the rotation. I think it's a good idea in terms of one particular issue when it comes in terms of the fact that we have a bunch of players that could use minutes, right? So between the players that are established that we're paying a lot of money and all the young players that we hope become something in the future, there's a lot of guys that should touch the court. Now, my issue is that when you put these many people in the rotation, obviously to accommodate that, every individual's minutes are probably going to be less than they could be. You're going to have guys on the bench that in theory could be playing 25 minutes that are probably going to be playing 18. Interesting that you bring this up. 10 to 11, but how many minutes does BI play? Right. So BI might have it in him to play 35 minutes, but he might be playing 30, 31 with this big of a rotation. When we talk about cutting people's minutes, like there's a knock-on effect to the fact that your bench players, your young bench players that I think would greatly benefit from having as many minutes as they could get, they're not getting those minutes, right? So Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, CMB if he cracks the rotation, Jameson, like there's a lot of guys. And again, it's a part of what comes with the territory of having a lot of young prospects. But these are all guys I would love to see get as many minutes as possible and see what their development could be. But that's not going to happen, right? A guy like Jacoby Walter, maybe he could play 20, 22 minutes a night. He might have to play 15 to 18 because we have to accommodate a big rotation. How does that impact things? I think we're at a point as a franchise where development is crucial, and I think that should be at the forefront of our thinking as a franchise. I don't really think that yes, we need to start winning games because we've seen a lot of losing recently, but contention is nowhere in our near future. So development, I think, is crucial. I think CMB should play G League first, but then again, he's a lottery pick. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't really have too strong of a take here, one way or the other. I thought he showed some good things in Summer League, but he also missed a game, I think, or two maybe. And again, with as many people as we have to give minutes to, maybe he's not ready. Or maybe he's not really even deserving compared to other players that have been in the NBA for longer and are a little bit more NBA ready. Can the Raptors develop and win at the same time? Okay. This is kind of related to the last thing I'm talking about, but it has its own distinct characteristics. When it comes to this question, what I'm more thinking about is like the approach to individual games, right? Because you can approach basketball the way the Washington Wizards have in recent history, where it's like, just let the young players play. Or you can approach basketball the way the Raptors did in the Dwayne Casey era, where, you know, if you're a young player, that's fine. But we're not altering the game to accommodate your development. Terrence Ross, Jonas Valanciunas, all you guys better figure out how to develop. But we're trying to win games. And that's just something that is going to be tricky. We have Grady, we have Jacoby, we have Shed, 3 players in the backcourt off the bench that I really, really want to see develop to whatever their max is. I'd like to see it. But if we're chasing wins and we're hunting wins and we're chasing the playoffs, then we're not going to put these guys on the court and truly say, you know, go make your mistakes and learn from it. No, we don't actually. We actually can't afford you making mistakes. I mentioned on that stream, I think I mentioned 42 wins. Yeah, it was 42 wins. So yeah, no, my question just is that are we going to see the best of these players and their personal development and winning at the same time? Because I don't really think those two things are fundamentally compatible. If a young player is making a series of mistakes and the objective is development, you play them through their mistakes. If most kind of mistakes. If the objective is to win basketball games, when a young player starts to make a series of mistakes, you pull them out of the game. That's what I think the tricky balance is between these two objectives. And what a part of the issue, or part of our problem with where we're at as a franchise right now, is that we've done too much losing to not address winning. We need to win games at some point. So with the recent history and how much we're paying to a bunch of our players, there has to be a focus. There has to be some focus on winning games. However, because we're nowhere close to being contenders and we have a lot of young talent on our team as well, it is also important to develop the young talent that you have. Again, these are kind of contradictory things that we have going on. So I just think this is something that's important to monitor, how they approach individual moments in games, how they approach a young player struggling. I think it'll say a lot about what their priorities are. I do think these are two very difficult things to balance, and we'll see how that goes. And then the second last thing I'm going to be keeping an eye on, does everybody find a role? So again, I talked about us having a lot of different people that could touch the court. I think there's 13 to 14 guys who, for one reason or another, I would like to see on a basketball court. The chaos that comes with that is having a hard time figuring out everybody's roles, and people's preferred roles clashing with each other's. So what I'm going to be paying attention to is that, do you actually see roles crystallized? Do you see a clear number 1 and a clear number 2? Do you see somebody who is primarily off the ball, and people who are primarily on the ball? Do you see people that off the bench, they know they're a scoring punch? And do you see people off the bench that know they're the floor general that's tasked with getting everybody involved? There's a bunch of different roles on the basketball court. Do we see everybody find their roles, and do the roles fit together? Again, we're a very unknown commodity at this point, considering that during the last 2 years, we've had so much roster turnover and we've had a lot of injuries. So there's been a lot of people that have not been on the court at the same time. So with that being the case, I just think it'll be really interesting to see how things work. For me personally, a part of it, it's not even just finding the roles for this year, but I'd like to see players find their roles so that I know what their roles are going forward, or what I can reasonably expect from them going forward, which kind of gets me into the next thing I'll be looking at. But yeah, I'm going to be looking heavily at like Emmanuel Quickly, for example. What are you? Are you an off the ball catch and shoot player? Can you collapse? If you have a little bit more upside going in the basket, maybe you should have the ball a little bit more. Like, I think this is a defining thing for Emmanuel Quickly. If he doesn't get enough production driving towards the basket, then I don't think he should have the basketball that much. I think it should probably be in Brandon Ingram's hands or Scotty Barnes' hands. If he's somebody who is a threat driving the ball and is a threat pulling up, then he puts pressure on the defense with the ball in his hands. And I think then guys like Ingram and Barnes will benefit from him off the ball. So I just want to see people's games develop a little bit to understand what their roles are. And I think that'll help in the short term and the long term. I see African King is in here. Big up to you, bro. Excited for the NBA season to start again. Me too, man. Me too. I'm ready. I just want to say, good shout not to stream last night. I think even the team's fans found it tough to find a reason to keep watching the games. Just generally, Monday nights, I can't really stream NFL stuff. He's talking about my NFL channel, people, In Motion Football. For those of you who aren't familiar, I do NFL content as well. The channel is tied to this channel. So you go to Toronto Hoop Talk, you scroll down, there should be a link to In Motion Football. But I am going to be doing a Monday night in a couple Mondays. There's going to be a doubleheader on October 13th. But yeah, generally, I can't do Monday nights regardless. But yeah, that brings me to my last and final thing I'll be watching for this season. What can we learn what to expect from everyone? And I think this is more about a long-term thing, right? Because there are a bunch of people on this roster that we have to make decisions about long-term, about whether they should be a part of our plans going forward or whether we should trade them. And I just think it'd be really important for everybody to get the opportunity to let me know what I can expect from them. Like Scotty Barnes, can I expect you to be a number one or not? We need to know if you're a 1 or a 2. I think you're a 2, but we're going to learn about, like, I would hope to know for sure. Brandon Ingram, are you a 1 or a 2 or a 3? Like, this is something we need to know. Emmanuel Quickly, again, should the ball be in your hands or not? Jamal Shed, can I trust you to run the second unit? Can I trust you to be the floor general that gets get all the role players involved? On a second unit, there's no superstar. There's no player that's just going to be capable of creating everything for themselves for the most part. There's going to have to be a floor general to get people involved. Can I trust you to do that? Grady Dick and Jacoby Walter, can you find a way to be a scoring punch off the bench? Can I expect you to be a game changer? Could I possibly expect you to be a starter one day? These are things we have to know about these guys. Sandru Mamukalashvili, right now you're supposed to be the backup 5. Do we struggle with rebounding when you're in that spot? If you have to play the 4, can you hang? Can you hang defensively? These are big questions. Colin Murray Boyles, do you have offensive upside? The way Scotty Barnes did. Not to say that they're the same player, but the point is that we drafted Scotty Barnes and people told us there was very little offensive upside. That was very much wrong. CMB, is that different? So, these are all things I want to know about these players, because once we figure out who these players are and what we can expect from them going forward, then we can actually properly roster plan. We're at a really difficult spot right now because so much is up in the air and there's so much ambiguity about people. There's a lot of injuries, a lot of turnover, teams changing, a lot of reasons that people look at players and say, you know what, we still haven't seen the best of them yet. I would like that to be put to bed this year. I want to know with absolute certainty who is who and what is what. So those are the things that I'll be paying attention to. Those are the things I think are important. I just want to say good. Oh, yeah, I already read this. Damn. But yeah, that's that, people. Very, very, very short stream today. Just a quick preview. I wanted the people to hear my voice. You guys are going to have this for about another week now. The next stream I'll be doing is Monday night late. So I can only do it because it's a late game. The game is 10 p.m. Eastern time. Nuggets and Raptors. I believe it's on the West Coast. Like Calgary or Vancouver. So I'll be doing a watch log for the 10 p.m. game on Monday. That's in 6 days, people. So the next time you see me will be then. Until then, you guys hang around, have fun. Actually, hold on. I think if BI has his way, he can become an all-star. I agree. But like, this is the thing. Even just this statement is a great example of what I was talking about. For every player on this roster, there's always a if so-and-so has their way, I think they can be. No, it's time for them to have their way. And that's what I hope happens this year. That's what I'll be watching for. But like I said, I'll see you guys on Monday for the Raptors Nuggets watch along preseason game. First Raptors action since Summer League. And I'm pretty excited about it. I hope you are too. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to support the content. That's the best way to support content on YouTube. YouTube does not know how to differentiate good content from bad content. So you have to help it do that for us. You need to let YouTube know that this is good content. And the only way you do that is by engaging with it. Like button, subscriptions, comments, shares, all that stuff. But yeah, I'll see you guys on Monday. You guys sit tight. I'm out.